and welcome here to TalkFCB and welcome back to the channel, guys, for yet more build-up ahead of Barca versus Inter in the Champions League semi-final. Kick-off! It's approaching. The expectation is building. And coming up today, we are going to be hearing from Lamine YAMAL and Hansi Flick. They face the media ahead of this all-important game. And I think we've received a few clues here on how the squad are feeling, on what potential team that we may see. Is there going to be a late change to the lineup? We're going to be discussing that in detail, along with my big match prediction. It is all on the way. This is our moment. So come on, and let's do this. And I do have to begin here today, guys, by saying a very, very big thank you to all of the super thanks that have been coming in here on the channel. I really, really do appreciate the support. Chris, Kiroga, Henry, Amino, Max, and a very, very special grandma. I hope that on Wednesday night we win for you. That would be absolutely amazing. So thank you guys for all of that. And I just cannot wait. And I have been saying that now for day upon day upon day. But I'm genuinely counting down the minutes to this game. I want it to begin. I want to be involved again in a Champions League semi-final. Can you imagine the atmosphere there? Just before kickoff, the game starts. It's underway. We are in the fight. And I've got to say, looking at the words and looking at the demeanour today of Lamine YAMAL, first of all, in his press conference, it actually gave me more belief. It actually gave me more confidence there that this is a team with such belief in themselves. They understand what's at stake. They know there's high pressure on this game. They know that they're facing an excellent team in Inter. But they know they can do this. They have proven that this season. And YAMAL in particular, 17 years old, facing the media before a Champions League semi-final, and yet he was calmness personified. He said, I'm really excited. I am genuinely so excited. We are eager to show the culés on Wednesday what we're all about as a team. And he said, I am ready to reach my first Champions League final. I mean, what a way. What a way to kick off the press conference there, talking about being ready to reach that first Champions League final for YAMAL. Imagine if we can make that happen. And now it is a very real possibility. And I thought it was kind of interesting then. It was an interesting route to go down from the next journalist, who basically said, well, looking at the way the game went against Real Madrid, looking at some of the comments before and comments after it, he said maybe some people in Madrid, they would see you, Lamine, as a bit arrogant. And I thought that was a really strange question, in my opinion, to ask there before this game. But I thought Lamine, again, he handled it so well. He takes all of this in his stride. And his answer, it was absolute gold. He said, as long as I win, they can't say anything to me. He said, maybe when they beat me, then they can talk. Those in Madrid, maybe when they eventually win, if they ever do, then they can talk to me. And I thought that was a great response there to a strange question. And there's no sense here that Lamine is arrogant, that he's cocky. He has belief, he has confidence, but you need that. You need that as a young player here who's about to play in a Champions League semi-final. If he didn't have confidence, I'd be very, very worried. Don't forget, all season long, he's been saying, we can win this. We can win all the titles. And we are still here. He is proving himself. The team are proving themselves out there on the field. And then he showed his humility, because he was asked about Messi. He was asked about the constant comparisons we hear between his own style of play, his own game, and Lionel Messi. But then he said, look, I don't compare myself to anybody, let alone Leo Messi. He said, I don't really think there that any comparison makes sense. I'm forging my own path. He said, look, I admire Messi as the best player in history there. So he didn't want to really talk about those comparisons. He didn't really want to add to that in any way. He's saying, I'm making my own path. I'm making my own way. But I have the ultimate respect for Messi. And again, then he was asked by a journalist, well, you are 17. You are facing an enormous game here. Do you feel the pressure right now? Are you feeling any fear in yourself ahead of a game of this magnitude? And again, I'm just wowed by the mentality of this young man. He said no. He said, I have never had that fear. I just have motivation. That's all I've got, which is easy at a club like Barca. He said, I left that fear in Mantaro a long time ago there. That was where Lamine YAMAL grew up. And he's basically said here, I've got none of that now. I have no fear in me, only motivation, only excitement for this game. And then he was asked, in terms of your teammates at Barca, in terms of the players who played such a big part in this team this season, who has impressed you there? Who do you look at and sort of admire? Who have you been really impressed with in terms of their performances? And he said, of course, there's Pedri and Rafinha. He said, but also Inigo Martinez and Frankie. They're also incredible. He said maybe they don't get talked about, maybe they don't get the same attention as others do, but he said they are so important there. Frankie and Inigo, they are having a great season. I thought it was nice there to highlight those two players there, players that can sometimes go under the radar, and those are two players that we will need to be at their best, as they have been showing over the past weeks and months, in order to beat Inter on Wednesday. But I just want to talk here a little bit about Rafinha, because there have been a few concerns after the game against Real Madrid because of maybe the performance that we saw from Rafinha. Many Barca fans are a little bit concerned about that decision making. You know, we've spoken about it a few times since that international break when, of course, Rafinha got a bit riled up in Brazil against Argentina, and since then it's been a little bit hit and miss from him, and a few people are just thinking, okay, you've got to make that right call. In these massive games then, you know, if we've got a 3-on-2 situation, if we're in front of goal, you've got to make the right pass. You've got to make the right shot at goal. You have to make sure that you're delivering in those big moments. But what I would just say is, I think with the way Rafinha has played this season, and especially the way that he's played in the Champions League, in the biggest of games, he has earned a bit of leeway. He has earned there a bit of grace in terms of, we know what he can do at his best when he is fully locked in, which I believe that he will be. I'm absolutely sure he will be ready for this game. We know what he can do, and what bigger and better stage than this for him to return to absolutely top form. And speaking indeed about Rafinha there, I think it's also more than just about what we can see on the field. Of course, he's become a real leader at the club, a senior figure, especially to those around him, younger players like Lamine YAMAL. And he was asked in the press conference there, Yamal, in an interview in the past, he spoke about Rafinha. He spoke about Rafinha giving him there a piece of advice that has been so important for him this season. And Lamine was actually asked there, can you reveal what that advice was from Rafinha? And Yamal said, it was a very long message, a long message that I got from Rafinha. He was laughing, but he said, look, it was great advice. It was something that I really needed in that moment. It was a personal message that he sent to me, only something that he knew at the time, and it really did help me there. So it's very important to know what Rafinha is giving this team, what he is doing for the younger players. Lamine said he's such an important figure. He's a captain, he's a veteran, he's got experience, and to know somebody like Rafinha is taking an interest in you, trying to help you, that is really important for me, and it helps us all to have a captain like him, guys. So I thought those were great words there from Lamine towards Rafinha, things that maybe we don't always see, things that happen away from the field. They're still vital, they're still integral for our season, and make no mistake, Lamine and Rafinha, they are absolutely key to our chances in this game. But indeed, guys, as we start to think about facing Inter, as we start to think about the potential team, about how the players are feeling, going back to that game against Real Madrid, Lamine was asked, well, how are you feeling? How are the players feeling there? How have you recovered since the demands of that game on Saturday? And again, just like we spoke about yesterday, where several Barca players were a little bit cautious after the game, Lamine was the same. He said, I think the other day was one of the games in which we suffered most physically. But he said in the end, we all dream of playing for Barca. And in a final against Real Madrid, your heart becomes stronger than your legs. That is what we've been missing for the past few seasons. But now we have it. And I thought those were very intriguing words there for two reasons. One, he's admitting that, yeah, we are still feeling that. It was an incredibly demanding game. It took the most out of us. But again, we're hearing about this mentality of the team, that the heart can push you forward there, that you can be strong in moments where maybe in the past we have fallen down, we have collapsed, we haven't had the strength to get back up and make a comeback. This team is doing it though, and that is why again I expect here in a Champions League semi-final, because of the magnitude of the game, the players, no matter how hard it's going to be, they will find their level. But of course, course, guys, from Lamine YAMAL, we now move on to Hansi Flick, who then faced the media. And I thought, again, some really, really interesting answers. Again, from Flick, I felt a real sense of calmness, a real sense of belief. And ultimately, what we've seen all season long is a trust that he has in his players. You know, he absolutely entrusts all of them to get the job done. But he did give Inter some very early credit there, and certainly so much respect from him towards his counterpart Inzaghi and what we're going to face in this game. He said Inter is a difficult opponent. Their defence is one of the best in Europe. They also build strongly through midfield. They transition very well, and they also have dangerous forwards. We know that we must prepare well. So there's absolutely no sense here. It goes without saying, but there's no sense that we are taking Inter lightly. We know about their threats. We know about how much of a quality team they are, and we will give them maximum attention. And Flick also did say there, on refocusing from that game against Real Madrid, on locking in again now on the next task. He said, when you win a final against Madrid, it's very special. There are big emotions, but now we're back down to earth. Now we are very focused again. He said, we have a chance to reach the Champions League final. It would be a dream to be there. And the players trained very well today. And Flick did seem really satisfied with how the players were training. He said they had a pre-match meeting. They went through all of their tactics and the talk there about Inter. And he said everything was good. I feel very happy with what I've seen. We are ready and we are focused because we can reach the final. We can be in the Champions League final. He was then asked, though, do you know who will play? You know, do you have a sense already of who's going to be in that lineup based on what you've seen today in training, based upon the past few games as well? Do you know your team? And I thought Flick's answer here, it can tell us a lot, because he actually said today is not the day to talk about the starting 11. He said there's still one more day until the game. He said, let's see how the squad is. Inter played on Sunday. Wasn't easy for them either. But he said it's a semi-final of the Champions League. Everybody wants to give 100% no matter what. But then he did add, if somebody can only give it for 45 minutes, that's okay too. We can still bring players from the bench. So it was almost as though there, Flick very much leaving things open. I still think he wants to see, even tomorrow in the activation session, what players are looking like there. What's the sharpness like? You know, is he going to have to leave one or two on the bench? Is he going to have to bring players on later? I don't think he wants to make any rash decisions. I don't think he wants to set anything in stone yet. He's giving the players time. He's giving everybody every opportunity to get themselves to 100% for one big push in this game. One thing, though, that we do know for absolute sure now is what is going on with Marc-Andre Ter Stegen. Because in his press conference today, Flick was actually asked by the journalist, could Ter Stegen play in the final? If you were to get to the Champions League final, Flick was asked, could Ter Stegen play in that game? But Flick shut that down immediately. He said no. He said Szczesny will play in the Champions League. That is crystal clear. That is 100% for sure. He did say, though, in La Liga, you know, maybe in the final games of the season, there could be some change at some point, but we will see. So the thing that is absolutely certain is that Szczesny stays in goal for the Champions League. It's the right call. It is absolutely the right decision, and we have full faith in him. And well, regarding the team that Szczesny is going to be trying very hard to stop, to keep out there in Inter, well, Flick was asked, Inter haven't scored in 3 games. Inter have lost all of their last 3 games. You know, they could have been on for the treble. Now they could leave with nothing. And Flick was asked, well, what are your thoughts on that? Have you thought about what that could mean for Inter? But Flick said, look, I don't think about that. He said, I haven't thought about that because it's not my job. He said, but what I can tell you is that the Champions League is different. Inter are 2 matches away from the final, just like we are. It doesn't matter about what's happened before. All that we have to focus on now is what's happening here. And those are vital words there. That's what we spoke about yesterday. Inter are struggling. Inter are lacking in confidence. Their preparation for this game, it has been awful, but it is sort of irrelevant. You know, at the end of the day, they could still turn up here. They could still arrive with a very, very big performance. And what you can also see here is that in the league, they've been good. In Italy, game by game, of course, they've been very, very solid. But I would say in the Champions League, they've upped those performances. They can arrive with a clear plan. It can certainly work out over 2 legs. They can be so defensively secure. And that's been really amplified in the Champions League. And we have to be wary of that. We have to understand that this is a team that can cause us problems. It's the type of team that we have struggled against at times. We must be ready, and we must play at our maximum. Which does then bring us on to the potential starting lineup from Barca. Now remember guys that yesterday in the full match preview video, we discussed the potential of seeing this lineup right here in the instance that Balde could return. That was what the lineup was based around there, that he may be back in time, going with our usual backline, our midfield, and of course the front four that we expect to start this game. But as we move closer to the game here, I don't know, I'm just not sure that he is going to be there. I think it's really up in the air right now, because what we're hearing in the media is that there are some reports that say Barca have known since last week, Balde wouldn't be here. They've known that now for several days, and we haven't heard too much about that. They haven't announced it publicly, of course. There was no indication today from Hansi Flick. They're keeping everything under wraps. And I think that's interesting there, because it's almost as though Barca may want to keep Inter guessing. They may want to keep Inter on their toes. They want every possibility to be on the table. But is it possible here that Balde won't be back? Is it possible here that Balde will not play in this game and that instead he'll return for the second leg? Look, it's possible. But the question then would be, well, if that happens, what happens at left back then? Who plays in that role? Because again, do we see Gerard Martin? Do we see the usual backline, Koundé there, Kubasi, Inigo Martinez, and again, just like we saw against Real Madrid, Gerard Martin entrusted with a massive game against Inter? Or is it possible we change again? Is it possible that we really do switch around that backline? Because there are some reports that say Inigo Martinez could play in that role. Just like we saw as that game went on against Madrid, Araujo came on, he played at centre-back, he was very good when he came on, and Inigo went out to the left. He didn't expect it. He spoke there about the fact that he was surprised when he was told to play there, but it happened. And my question would be, was that almost in preparation for this game? If Barca have known now for a while that Balde wasn't going to play, has Flick been trying a few other things here? Has he been exploring other alternatives? And could Inigo play out there? Would you be happy with that? Because obviously what that does there, it does disrupt the back line, because you've got to take him, who's been an excellent centre-back, out of his natural position, shift him out wide, and then bring in Araujo. But of course this situation, guys, it's not ideal. We wanted Balde, we needed Balde in this game. The fullbacks are going to be so important. But I want to know what you think. I want to know here if you'd like to see Inigo at left back, Araujo at centre back, or would you stick with Gerard Martin? Because with all of that said, guys, with all of the quotes discussed, with all of that dissected and analysed and looking at the potential lineup, there's only one more thing here that's left to do, and that is for us to decide what's going to happen. Who is going to come out on top? Can we really kickstart this semi-final and kick ourselves off here in the best possible way? I think we have to. I think we've got to start this game strong. We've got to get that early goal. We've got to really threaten Inter, really put a lot of pressure on their fragile confidence right now. And that is why here, I am going to go with a Barca win. And not only just a Barca win, but I'm going to say 3-1. I think we've got this. I think that we can do this. It will not be easy. It will be a challenge. We will have to summon up every last drop of energy, just like I'm doing here, just like we've all done this season. But we can do it. We are Barca, and this is our moment. Please let me know down below, what are you feeling? What are you thinking? What thoughts are running through your mind right now? And what is your prediction ahead of this game, guys? Let's make it special. Let's make it a night to remember. And this season, let's make history. I will see you soon. Enjoy this moment. But until next time, as always, Vesca, El Barça.